Canto 18. There is a place in hell called Malebolge, pouches of evil, all of iron gray stone, just like the ring that circles it above, right in the center of all this wicked plain. A broad and plummeting basin drops from sight, its structure I will speak of in its place. This strip of hell that thus remains goes round between the hole and the hard precipice into 10 separate pockets in its split, as where defenders of a city's walls dig trench on trench about the fortress. The rings of ditches form a pattern there, similar to the pattern made by these, and as from sill to the next stronghold sill, small bridges lead the way to the last edge. So from the cliff's base, rock ribs cut their way across the gutters here and up their banks, converging at the hole that chops them short. Here, shaken from the monster Geryon's back, we found ourselves. The poet then set out to the left, and I followed in his track. On our right hand we saw new misery, new torments, and new handlers of the lash. And this first pocket was stuffed full with them. The sinners at the bottom were all nude. Those near approached us, while the far ones went in our direction, but with greater strides, as Romans in the year of Jubilee. For the great hosts of pilgrims on the bridge found a way to move traffic steadily. For on one side the travelers had to face Castle Sant'Angelo, going towards St. Peter's, while those upon the other faced the hill. Over the blackish stone, and everywhere, I saw horned devils ply their thick, bold whips, thirsty for blood, lashing the sinners' backs. Ah, how the first strokes made them lift their heels! Yes, no one stood and waited for another, or yet a third. And as I walked along, my glance happened to light on one of them, and I broke out directly. For a fact, I haven't fasted from the sight of him. To get a better view, I set my feet, and my guide, sweet and courteous, halted too, permitting me to walk a short way back. And that scourged spirit thought to hide himself, lowering his brow. It did him little good. Oh, you who cast your eyes upon the earth, if your face and its features aren't false, you're Vendico Caccianimico. But what has dipped you in so sharp a sauce? And he to me, against my will I'll tell, for your clear speech recalls that world of old, and has a power upon me to compel. I was the man who pushed Gisolabella, my sister, to the bed of the Marquise, no matter how they tell the dirty tale. I'm not the only Bolognese who weeps here in this ditch. The place is full of us, more than the tongues that learn to answer Sipa between the Reno and the Savina. Want witness for it? Something you can trust? Only recall the avarice of our hearts. So he spoke, but a demon slashed at him with his rough horse whip, crying, "Off with you, pimp! We're no whores for you to swindle here." Then I rejoined my leader and my guide, and soon we came upon a place where juts a stone reef from the chasm's rocky side. We scrambled up this bridge quite easily, and turning right upon its jagged back, we left those endless circlings all behind. When we were at the summit of its arc, where it gapes underneath and gives the flogged a passage through, my guide said, "Stop, and let sight of these others born in evil hour strike you. You haven't seen their faces yet, for they were walking the same way we walked." So from that ancient bridge we watched the track of sinners from the other band. Here too the lash made sure their paces were not slack, and my good teacher, though I did not ask, said, "Look at that great figure coming there. Who does not seem to shed a tear for pain? What kingliness his image still retains! He's Jason, who with his brave heart and wits deprived the Colchians of the Golden Fleece. He came ashore upon the Isle of Lemnos after the ruthless women boldly put their fathers, sons, and brothers all to death. With acts of love and words of sweetest skill, he fooled the pretty girl, Hypsipyle. He left her great with child and all alone. Such fault condemns him to such punishment. What he did to Medusa also earns its vengeance here. Seducers go with him, all liars. That's enough for you to know of this first ditch and those clamped in its fangs. Our narrow path over the bridge now met the second bank, and where they crossed they made a buttress for another arc beyond. Here in the second pouch we came upon people who whimpered, sniveled, runny-nosed, who slapped and smacked themselves with open palms. The walls were fungus-crusted, thick with mold, which rose in vapors from below and clung, making a nauseous brawl, with eyes and nose. So hollow was the bottom of this pouch, we had no vantage point to see a soul until we climbed the summit of the arc. So there we climbed, and in the trench I saw people plunge deep in just the sort of dung you dump from human privies and latrines. And while I searched the bottom with my eyes, I saw a man, his head so shit besmeared, you couldn't tell if he were lay or priest, who yelled, "Why does your hunger make you choke to stare at me, and not the other filth?" And I, "Because, if I remember well, I saw you when you wore your hair cut dry. Alessio Intermania, from Lucca. That's why I gaze upon you more than all." Then he, smacking himself with the pate, "They've sunk me down here, all my flatteries, with which my tongue was never tuckered out." And after that, my guide, "Pray, stretch your gaze," he said to me, "a little further on, until your eye can reach the filthy face of that hair-rumpled and disgusting wench who claws herself with shit beneath her nails, now standing up, now squatting on her haunch. She's Thais. She's the whore whose lover asked, 'Have I found lots of favor in your eyes, And she replied, "And how? You're marvelous. I think our sights have had their fill of this." End of Canto 18.